Hey, welcome to the World Tour of Meditation. Our purpose here is to debunk myths around meditation so you can actually access deep inner peace, calm, and joy. And today I'm so delighted to have with us Mary Baumgartner. Is that right? Am I pronouncing
That's correct.
Great. Mary Baumgartner, who's a meditation teacher who used to be a practitioner of intuition medicine, has dived in deep with the yoga sutras, and into the yogic tradition, and who is a birth and postpartum doula and practices something called calm birth, which I'm so curious about. Mary, is there anything you'd like to add to that description of your work?
I know that's pretty good. However, I'm not currently a doula.
Okay,
That was a stop along the way.
cool.
Yeah,
Seems like you've had a lot of stops along the way.
exactly.
What a beautiful journey.
It's been good.
So you started out with the Peace Corps, is that right?
Yes, I was in the Peace Corps shortly after college for 2 years.
And how did that play into your journey of meditation?
Well, it was very interesting because I was in the Peace Corps in the Philippines, and it was a time in US history when there was a very large aid package to the Philippines. And I think the Peace Corps contingent there was part of that aid. So my work there was not very well organized, and I ended up having a lot of time to work with myself. So one of the things I'd always been curious about, I think when I was in high school, I'd seen a Newsweek magazine cover that showed these monks on top of a mountain with sheets on, and they were in this super cold weather and were meditating, and they had put wet sheets on them, and the sheets dried from the heat of their meditations. And I just thought that was really exceptionally cool. So I started doing some meditation in the Philippines, and it was really wonderful to like just drop into stillness and find a place of calm in that context. But I really felt like I needed more guidance, and I wasn't able to keep up a practice with any kind of regularity. But it was sort of the beginning of experimenting.
Thank you. That's a really cool image of the monks with the sheets drying up. Yeah, sounds amazing. I want to do that. I have two questions. One, have you ever experienced that? Sheets drying up around you?
No, not exactly.
And two, like, and we can go more into that, but two, keeping up a daily practice and wanting the guidance for that. Why did you feel you needed guidance, and what was a daily practice? What were the challenges in a daily practice that could speak to our listeners today?
Well, I think there's a certain amount of discipline involved, and a daily practice is something that you have to prioritize. It's something you have to make a priority in your life. And I think it's much easier to do that if you have a larger context in which to do that. Like if you're taking a class or if you're working with a teacher, there's a lot to be said for having an outside reference. And also in working with a teacher, there's a way in which at times when your discipline falters or your faith diminishes, if you have a strong teacher, there's actually a way in which linking with a teacher enables you to borrow their faith. It's a concept we talk a lot about in, I'm doing right now a yoga therapy training. And we talk a lot about that because it's very helpful to a client when they come to you and they're trying to work their way out of some kind of suffering, whether it's physical, emotional, or spiritual. It's very helpful to them if I, as a yoga therapist or practitioner, can show up and be strong in my faith that there is hope in their situation with what we have to offer. So I do think it's very hard to learn meditation from books. It's really an experiential kind of thing, and it's super helpful if you can do some kind of study in a group so that you can hear what other people's experiences are. That can be very, very interesting, enlightening, stunning. And fun. It's really fun to see how people's minds work.
That's really interesting. I actually hadn't thought of it that way before, but whenever I've taught in groups, that's totally true. When someone asks a question, it helps everyone else in the group understand it even better. And I hadn't realized that till just now.
Yeah, asking a question is one thing, but also going around and hearing what people's experiences are. You see that, oh, not everybody's getting the same thing here. And then over time, you start to realize that our structures and our experiences, our past, the patterns we've developed really inform how we perceive. And it's this instrument of the mind and the body that we experience the world through. So going through, making efforts to clarify and come into balance, influence our perceptions and move us closer to having correct perceptions versus incorrect perceptions.
That's really beautifully put. Thanks.
You're welcome. It's from the Yoga Sutras.
I see. Thanks for
my new best friend.
I really loved what you said about borrowing faith from a teacher.
Isn't that cool?
Speak to that a bit more, because like one of the things I hear a lot is, oh, you don't need a guru, and like, gee, you are not you. So what does it mean to have a teacher in the context of current, largely Western aversion to the notion of a guru?
Yeah, I think there's a big difference between a teacher and a guru.
Okay.
So a teacher, I guess I think of it as a teacher as being someone like you, but farther down the road. Someone who is still studying and learning and is still a work in progress. Mm-hmm. Versus a guru, this is one of the problems. This is what's really interesting is as you work and you study and you meditate and you get to know yourself better, you start to be able to know other people better. And maybe you don't know why they're where they're at, but you understand, or you can see where they're at. And over time, with much practice, you develop actually special abilities. And these are a big distraction. So there is actually a warning in the sutras about this, to beware of these because they will distract you on your path. And this is where I think this term guru, this is where I have, I guess I have a bit of an aversion in that sense, because I do think that people develop very powerful abilities, and the temptation to use those in inappropriate ways is very great. And many people fall prey to that. I mean, you could just watch the news and see that, in terms of the yoga news. A lot of people fall down,
What do you mean?
Oh, there's just a ton of sexual impropriety in this arena. Yeah.
More so than other arenas? Because of
that's such a good question. Such a good question. I'm not sure about that. Maybe it is more jarring in this arena because we're so focused on refinement and moving to different levels, moving out of the bounds of body and desire and grasping, that when someone in a position of power abuses that power and abuses their abilities in this way with other people, I find it rather crushing. I find it very disappointing.
Has that ever happened in communities you've been involved with?
Not in communities I've been involved with.
Because that's come up a couple times as I've spoken to other people.
Oh, really?
Show. And also, so has the point of when you attain deeper states of meditation, you end up like unlocking these superpowers that can actually really lead you astray because you don't see your own ego.
Right.
One of the monks I was speaking to, he framed it as when you open people get very excited about concentration and opening the third eye. And when you open the third eye, yes, you see amazing things, but the third eye cannot look at your own ego. Only the eye of your heart can look at your ego.
Right. And this again is the key or one of the critical aspects of having a teacher. You need an outside reference. Someone else who can reflect back like, maybe we should pull back on this particular practice.
Again, I have two questions. What do you think of not learning meditation out of books, but learning meditation out of like guided audio recordings, such as using apps? That's very popular these days.
I know the apps are really popular. That is such a great question. For many years, I have been rather a purist, and I would work with people and they'd ask for, recordings. And I'd be like, no, you gotta, that is not going to be helpful to you in the long run. If you practice after this list of notes on what your steps are, then it becomes part of you. It becomes ingrained. So that's sort of like, that's kind of like where I have been. In the process of working with people in yoga therapy, I've met a broader spectrum of people. When I was teaching just private meditation classes, it was kind of like a self-selected group. And with yoga therapy, it's a little broader spectrum. And I've encountered people who are so agitated that they really cannot get to it without something like a recording. So I have softened considerably on this.
And what is when someone is in that state of agitation, what is it that a recording provides to them that a teacher doesn't?
Guidance. They're guided. And so versus having to guide themselves internally, I'm talking about the recording as facilitating their daily practice when they're coming to a weekly class.
Yeah. Okay.
I think that there is it's common today for people to be doing buffet style meditation. And, this is not what I've done, and this is not what the teachings tell me is a great idea. However, I love that there's so much available and that there are so many entries into this space for people.
Can you clarify what you mean by buffet style meditation? I think I have.
Oh, one day it's their app, their Calm app. Another day it's recording off of Deepak Chopra's website. Another day it's ocean sounds. Another day, it's just like, and what I believe they're actually doing is they're making efforts to change their state, and that is great. But like so full disclosure, I'm deep in the yoga path right now. And so in yoga, what we're doing is we develop practices for people to change their state before they go to sit, before they bring up their their object of meditation, or, you know, so their state is changed, and then the mind is directable. So in yoga, the idea is, well, in the sutras, the way they talk about mind is there's all these activities of the mind. There's 5 activities of the mind. And in one, the mind is off. That's deep sleep. And the other 5 are perception, wrong and incorrect, or incorrect and correct perception. There's memory, and there's creation or imagination, and then there's deep sleep. So the mind is actually never empty. It may be off, but never empty. So the goal with meditation is actually to direct the mind, to choose a direction and direct the mind. And the effort in meditation, or the practice of meditation, is that process of recognizing that the mind has been, this direction has been interrupted, and bringing the mind back to that chosen direction. That's the practice. That's the effort. So a lot of people think they can't meditate because, I can't settle down. I can't stop the movement of my mind. Well, you know, it's not about stopping it. It's about directing it.
And how does one decide which direction is the right direction to direct it in?
Well, again, you need a teacher. You need a teacher. So, when you asked me to do this conversation, I started thinking about this and all the things I would like to bring up. And one thing I thought about is the story of this man who was extremely meek. And he was basically browbeaten by his wife, his boss, his coworkers, everybody. And so he went to a teacher, and the teacher gave him a meditation object of a tiger. And through linking with this image, or this idea of tiger, he became very emboldened. When he saw his teacher again, his teacher realized, oh, he's going too far. he's hard to live with. No one can work with him. He's become completely unrelatable. Mm-hmm. So he wanted to take this meditation object away from him. But of course, this man did not want to do that. So there is this relationship with the teacher where there has to be a tremendous amount of trust. And the teacher has to know you very well, to know what kind of object to give you. And then you need to stay in touch, so that as your world starts to change, your teacher can help you to go, and to progress.
So I appreciate that story and love it for the purpose you've shared it for. And that raises for me the question of the way you describe the teacher there, harkening back to something we spoke about, the way you describe a teacher there and the kind of relationship that student has of deep trust and communication, and the teacher's ability to see where the student is. All of that to me sounds very much like what I understand having a guru to be like, in the sense of like a teacher who's extremely experienced, that you're committed to, and who's able to see things about you that you can't see about yourself. Correct.
Maybe that is. I don't use that term.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know. I think of guru as someone, and this may easily just be semantics.
Okay.
But I think of guru
lost in translation from Sanskrit to English.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, the tiger story though, that's really cool. And were there other anecdotes that you'd wanted to share?
Oh, well, we had talked previously about, I had called it object-oriented meditation. And that is probably a poor term. But the idea is that by linking with objects, there's a way in which you can link with objects where you become more aligned with the qualities of the object. And this is part of how we use meditation. This is probably an overstep, but I think of it as using meditation as medicine, as using meditation as a purpose for transformation. So there are different objects. It's through metaphor, and it's trying to facilitate the identification of a person with a quality that they need more of.
What's another example of object-oriented meditation?
We shouldn't use that term. Object focus, object focus.
It's such a good term.
I know, it's such a fun twist if you've come from technology, but yeah, it's object focus. Well, there are many, and the possibilities are really rather endless. One that comes to mind right now is like for women who are having irregular menses, a common object is the moon and the phases of the moon. And by linking with the phases of the moon, it facilitates their system of coming back into an appropriate cycle.
How would you do that? How would you link with the phases of the moon? Just with whatever is in the sky at the moment, or particular temporality to it?
Yeah, that's a really good question. The trick with that is, you can't always see the moon because of cloud cover or whatever. But I think it would depend on the person. It may be something not so specific. It may be just having them linked to moon, and somehow in their system the shift occurs. But you would choose moon maybe in the lead up to bringing up moon. You would talk about phases of moon and then bring those two together.
Very interesting. Very cool.
Yeah.
So that's what you focus on in yoga therapy?
In yoga therapy, well, it's one aspect of it. Yoga therapy is the application of meditation. It's asana. We use sound, chanting, sutra study. It can be a variety of things. It's the tools of yoga applied to someone's situation.
The tiger example actually reminded me of something I learned in mantra meditation as well, of how when you are focused on a mantra, it conjures up the image of whoever or whatever is behind that mantra, and then you imbibe those qualities, which again links me to what you said of borrowing faith from a teacher. It's sort of the sense of like, you create this connection with the tiger or with the moon or with whatever is in the mantra or with your teacher, and then you're like linking up and like receiving some energy from that to strengthen your own.
Exactly. Absolutely. Mantra is a great way.
There was something you said earlier that I found really, really interesting and profound, of the way you describe meditation and your perhaps your critique of buffet style meditation. And what I really heard underneath that, because I'm quite a proponent of that, as you might have gathered.
Buffet style. Oh, okay.
What you call buffet style meditation. Yeah. I'm quite a proponent of that, for, as you might have gathered in our conversation briefly, of just like, because I actually do different things based on what I sense I need to get back to balance. And it's not always the same thing every day. Though for periods in my life, it has been the same thing every day. But then like, I'll go through it and I'll be like, all right, now it's time for this. And it's just this intuitive flow to it. It's not like, oh, today I really don't want to do this. Let me do this instead. But what I really sensed underneath it, that I found very interesting, is a different approach and a different framing that you have to what meditation's purpose is, from what you sense is sort of this mass understanding of the purpose of meditation. Basically that it's not about shifting your calmness or changing your state, but rather if you actually change your state beforehand, for instance, through doing yoga, asana, and pranayama. But if you actually change your state beforehand, then it lets you focus deeper?
Yes.
Mm.
It lets you focus deeper. And if you return to the same object over and over, you can know that object deeply. You can affect the object. And you can also, what I find really fascinating is if you're returning to this same thing, you can watch the movements of your mind. And over time, as you get to know yourself very well, then you start to know others. You start to have greater insights. Because most of us are operating out of patterns. We have patterns that were born of, in some cases, survival needs that were present when we were young, patterns of behavior and being in the world that are not reflections of spirit. And so by working with the system and understanding the patterning and understanding where you're operating from, you have the opportunity to clear the way to be operating from what is really you versus these patterns.
So that's where meditation has this transformative power, and that it helps you undo we're back to programming analogies, but it helps you undo these like key programs rather than being something that helps you simply like shift state and come
Right.
when you're stressed, because those are like quick fixes. It's like taking a pill rather than what is the robot underneath me doing.
Right. And as you become an adult and start going out in the world, I think it's common to bump up against the same issue. You start bumping into the same issue all the time. And then after a while, it's like, well, how can all these people be so wrong? Or so funky, you know? And then you realize, you know, it's not them. It's the way I architect my life experiences. And I architect them that way because that's how I learned to do it. And now they don't work so well for me anymore. Now I want a new experience. So a lot of people aren't up for this level of exploration. They just want to feel better. And you know, that's valid. That's valid. But my position has been that doing your personal work is what really enables a full life. I mean, from doing my own personal work, I've been able to do things that I was not trained for or schooled in. I just was able to do it. The self-limiting beliefs were released, and I was able to make things happen. And the only thing I can attribute that to is doing that personal work.
Is there an example you'd be willing to share that might?
Oh, I'd rather not.
All right. Sure, of course. Yeah. Well, that's really powerful, that the concept, the understanding, and the experience that you share with us in terms of borrowing your faith as you say this, that meditation can enable and does enable really profound, deep inner change, that personal work, that unconditioning of patterns and belief systems learned in childhood, or from our ancestors, that
right.
when we
nice add from our ancestors.
can you connect this to your work around birthing?
You know, it's been many years since I was a doula, but that was quite profound. And the calm birth work really was not, it was a lot of breath work, but it wasn't so much object focus. It was more working with the breath and some visualization, and really bringing, I think, giving the laboring mother a little greater sense of control when things started to feel, you know, not so in control in that process.
Mm-hmm. And any way that you've seen connections between that whole process and the kinds of patterning and conditioning that a child receives?
Sorry, what do you mean, that whole process?
The whole birth process.
Oh, well, that is an amazing question, isn't it? When you think of, I mean, people have a wide spectrum of birthing experiences. And I can't say how that affects the development. I have not studied that.
Okay.
But it undoubtedly does.
Okay, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Are there any other misconceptions and myths around meditation that burn in your heart that you want to clarify?
Misconceptions and what?
Are there any other myths or misconceptions around meditation?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, burn at your heart and that you want to clarify.
Yeah, no. You know, I think that it's gotten a lot better. There is a lot more information out there, and like you said, there's a lot of apps, and there's accessibility to experiences that really helps. I think previously there was a sense of failure that people had around it, and like that was something else. That was something that, yeah, they knew it would be good for them, but they weren't going to be able to do that. And so for me, this idea that this acceptance that yes, intrusions happen, and that the exercise actually is that effort to bring the mind back, that's like the weightlifting of it. That was super helpful to me, to realize like, oh yeah, it's not that I'm no good at this. It's like, this is my exercise. This is my practice. And this practice, as you practice, what typically happens is there's a little bit of friction that happens. It's not a no-brainer to practice every day for many people. It really requires some effort and some discipline. And it's through this effort and this development of the practice that it starts to become clear what is not helping you in your life. And as your link to your practice grows, the link to these other things that inhibit your evolution grows weaker, and there's a relinquishing that takes place. You start to let go of the things that are preventing your development. And there is some effort to this, but if the practice is growing and you have a good teacher that's supporting you, this can be super helpful for people.
And do you have any advice on how to identify a good teacher?
That's another great question. I think it's very important that there is an ease in the relationship, and that there is, for me, it's very important that my teacher is still studying and growing. You know, that's an important value of mine. And then it's likely a very personal thing. I think one of the things that happens with people is a misidentification. And people want to meditate because they think, oh, well, I'm meditating, but you know, they're like doing whatever. And there's an identity that they want, you know, they want to be a meditator or whatever. And the identity thing is really the basis of what the meditation practice is all about. You know, it's about getting people to link with things that shift their identity or that facilitate the shifts in their person. And this thing with finding the teacher, like it would be a stretch for me to look for a guru, you know. But if a guru is what you feel you need, then try to find one with integrity. You know, try to find one that makes sense to you and, you know, is that resonates with you. I'm sorry, I'm not being very articulate about that. I mean, it was a complete accident how I found my teacher. So maybe being open to it helps.
How did you find your teacher?
I'm sorry?
How did you find your teacher?
He substitute taught a yoga class. And I walked out of that yoga class and I felt in the class like we weren't doing anything. You know, I was used to kind of a strenuous class. And I felt like, oh, what is this? And then I walked out of the class and I was just like, I felt like I'd been in a 3-hour meditation. And I was like, what was that? You know? And, you know, he didn't teach at a time that I could go to his regular classes and stuff. But over time, I caught up with him and I'm still studying with him. And he's great. His name is Chase Bossert. And he's actually, you're a yoga teacher, you may be interested. He is doing a yoga therapy training in the fall in Berkeley.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
Starting it in the fall, yeah.
Very cool. What's your favorite thing about yoga therapy?
Oh, well, it's the things we're talking about, you know, the transformative power. And I think that in working with this, I've developed a much stronger sense of spirit within my own self. There is a much stronger awareness of that presence. And there's a much greater ability to meet that presence in others. And that just feels really right and really rich.
How long do you think someone who might be inspired by what you've shared, who decides to walk down a path of yoga therapy and meditation, how long do you think they'd need to stick with it before they start to see the transformation and benefits in their life?
Oh, that's so good. I guess it depends on where you are when you come to it, right? So if, but it can be very disruptive. I mean, you know, you come to it and you realize, oh, none of all that stuff that I worked so hard to get to attain, whether it was career or material wealth or whatever, none of that means anything. I mean, it can really mess up what you've had going on.
This reminds me of something a family friend of mine keeps repeating, who's really into spirituality and studied with Osho for many years. And he keeps saying, you know, Buddha was a loser. Like in terms of like material and what we value in the world today, in terms of who's a success and who's a failure, he's like, Buddha was a loser. Do you really want that in your life?
Yeah, well, you know, people could argue these things.
Yeah.
you know. But we lose it all in the end anyway. So get a jump on it.
I saw this cartoon the other day that was like, why are you so worried? No one's going to get out of here alive anyway.
Yeah, exactly. Nobody gets out alive.
Mary, it's been a real pleasure talking to you.
You too. We should stay in touch.
Oh, I'd love that. I'd love that. Is there anything you'd like to add or anything that came up for you that you want to say more on?
Let me see. Well, I would really like to encourage people to do something for their well-being, whether that's you know, a yoga class. I mean, you know, I get a little nervous recommending people go to yoga because, boy, not all yoga is created equal. And one of the dirty secrets of yoga is a lot of people get hurt in yoga. So, you know, but if there's a gentle yoga class, or if there is someone who's connected, or a meditation class, I encourage people to explore it, because really the loosening up of the system and of the old patterns, it's just so freeing. And when you start to understand that you are neither your successes nor your failures, that also is so freeing. And there is so much love. You know, there's so much love just inside. And I would really I feel it would be so great if everybody could access that.
With you there, definitely.
Right?
Reminds me of the part about yoga freeing up and
Yeah.
body really let go of really deep-seated things. I know a few friends of mine personally, and I've also experienced this. And apparently it's a relatively common experience, but sometimes when you get into like a particular yoga posture, and for a lot of people it can be pigeon, for me it was Dandasana, where you stay in that posture for a while and you're breathing in it, and then you have this like spontaneous release of all this emotion that you didn't even know was there. When that happened to me, like this image came back when I like fractured my back 12 years ago. It just like popped into mind all of a sudden, and like the people around it, and I was just like, whoa, where did that come from? But feeling and being present with just this like outburst of emotion that came so clearly from staying present with the sensation in that exact asana, in that exact posture.
Right. This is the thing. Yoga helps you digest what you take in and digest your experiences. So that was a huge moment, a dramatic moment of digestion for you. You know, when I first started doing a daily practice, I would have moments where my body would react and rebel, and my back would go up. I mean, I'd had many back injuries and neck injuries prior, but I realized the other day, wow, my back hasn't gone out in ages. You know, it takes time. It takes time. It's the long game. But really, the short game is not where it's at. You know, and for me, if you haven't done anything yet, go for the short game, because maybe it'll take you to the long game. You know, and I mean short game like the Calm app and, you know, all of those things. But yeah, I think that that's a beautiful example of a dramatic moment, and where you see that, like, oh, my body was still holding that experience. And our bodies do. This is the term smrti. Our bodies have full memory of everything. Like there is, I don't have a conscious memory of some things, but my body remembers it and holds it. And so by this process of work and working on this meditation, yoga, chanting, all these things that loosen the system and let this stuff come up and be digested and released. This is a beautiful thing. This is a much more comfortable way to live.
Very beautiful.
Yeah, it's good. We're in the same tribe, it's clear.
Oh, it's such a delight, Mary. Thank you so much for your time.
Yes, thank you. Take care, Daksha.
And you.
Bye.